Hello. So we're going to be having a debate. And I'm just going to go ahead and hop into the channel now. So let's go. One sec.
Dismantle, and so you just end up looking good no matter what. And so it's just an easy win. That's why I want to do it, because he'll say some stupid ass shit. Like, yeah, sure, bro. Like,
Just so you know, you're live. So,
Oh.
hello, I am here.
Okay.
Let me
okay.
just.
I promise not to say the N-word.
Okay, like that's honestly the only that's the only criteria I had. So as long as you do that, you're essentially golden in my eyes. Hold on, let me just put you guys up on my screen. Woohoo!
The standard is so low.
Honestly, but look.
Oh no, I just.
So are we
Hey.
gonna start here in the arena and then move over to the room I created when it comes time for the debate? Is that what we want to do?
Yeah, I mean, we could do that ahead of time.
I mean, it doesn't really matter for now, because for now it's just gonna be me sharing my screen.
Okay. For the room that you made, is it locked?
It shouldn't be. It might be.
You might want to make it locked because, especially like for my type of channels, sometimes people will like hop in and just say absurd.
Yeah, I don't know what permissions you want to set on it, so if you want to lock it, feel free to go ahead and do that now.
Okay, yeah, I can do that. One moment.
Alright, so this is done. Oh, I have the stream. What am I doing? I'm not streaming this? Outrage.
I probably should stream.
Hold on. Let me just
maybe
go
I
ahead
should.
and
I don't know.
change.
I guess
I
you
had
tell
to.
everybody to stream.
I had to go pick up this new mouse, and this mouse sucks. I hate this mouse so much, but you know what? It's better than not having a mouse altogether.
I mean, there's a reason we call mice pests.
Like
Oh,
it's so bad.
LOL.
To be fair,
Wow.
you do have the funds to get a better one.
Well, yeah. So I actually already ordered the better one. It's just it'll be here tomorrow, but I still needed something in the meantime, so I went to the dollar store and got this one.
What'd you end up getting?
I don't know. Popota sent it over to me. The Logitech
not the recommend-
Lightspeed wireless gaming mouse.
Oh my god, my headphones are Logitech. That's.
I think that's just kind of like what
My
all of us.
webcam's Logitech. Whoa.
Oh my god, we have so much in common. Do you want to be friends?
Apparently. I guess that's why we're here.
If
Yeah.
it's Logitech and it's wireless, then it's probably pretty good because I use the G Pro wireless.
Yeah, I mean the one I just had was wireless, but decided to just
Beat itself out of existence.
yeah, it just fell apart. I'm gonna probably just really quickly make a role called debaters and like so that everyone will easily be able to get in because I don't want there to be any issues. So really quickly, let me just go quickly do that, and then yeah. In the meantime, though, while I'm doing that, you could definitely go ahead and explain everything.
Yeah. So just before I go ahead and start the explanation, I'll introduce myself. So, my name's gonna be Ark Quebec, or you can call me Ark. I use masculine or neutral pronouns, so if you could just refer to me with those for the rest of the time that I'm here, I'd really appreciate that. I've been doing debating for too long, but I've never seen it done on Twitch, so this is my first time involved in the Twitch community, so I'm really excited to meet you all. But I've existed on the internet, so I know a little bit of what Twitch is, and but it's really interesting to me because
Thank you, new
the
follower.
in-person debate scene has shifted onto Discord and Zoom, but the better stuff is on Discord. So I've done debate on Discord using the in-person styles for a long time, and I don't really know what Twitch style is, so if at any point you have any questions about what the differences are, feel free to just unmute yourself and ask. I'd be happy to answer. Just a couple things I do want to stress before we get started, because I've been told that these are issues in Twitch debate. The first is equity. So it's important to be respectful of others during their speeches, so it's important to keep your mics off unless there's a POI, but I'll explain what that is a little bit later. So keep your mics off while other people are speaking, just out of respect. If you keep your camera on, don't make obnoxious faces in the camera. I mean, if someone makes a joke, feel free to laugh at it, but like, don't roll your eyes at someone else's arguments. It's kind of rude. Similarly, there's no heckling whatsoever. So if someone says something in their speech, you have to wait until it's your speech to disagree with it, and like really flesh out your position. So please keep those things in mind. And the last thing I want to stress about equity is you are supposed to attack the arguments themselves and not the people making the argument. Just because things can get really personal, and I'm sure this is an entirely wholesome environment, but I just want to stress that anyways, just kind of as a disclaimer, just because I don't know what Twitch debate is like, and from the descriptions I've gotten, these are notes that I think I think I should add at the top. Sorry, did you want to say something, Azekreth?
Yes, I was about to say the Twitch debate is cancer.
Yeah. So hopefully, like, that's just a general framework as to how to try and make it a little bit less cancer. If there are any questions on that, now's the time, because that's probably the most important part of anything I'm about to say. Just don't be a bad person.
Right. Right. So sorry. So how would POIs work? Is it just like raise your hand or stand up physically in the camera or what?
Yeah, so I'm going to explain POIs in a minute. I just want to go through more of the basic definitions and the style first, and then kind of once we have all the other stuff down, I'll do POIs at the end. Sound good?
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. So the style I'm going to be teaching you is called CP, or Canadian Parliamentary. I'm going to be doing the high school version of it, just because if it's your first time, it's probably good to have a motion provided to you. And on the university circuit, you come in pre-prepared with your own case. Whereas on the high school circuit, you're given a motion, you have 15 minutes to prep it. So for this one, it's the high school version, and the only thing that makes it a high school version is you're given a motion and you have to debate it, and you have 15 minutes to prep your side. But feel free to do this one when one side has the case and the other side just literally figures out what the motion is when you roll up. Also, heads up, you have just gotten rid of this. Oh, no, the CP room is back. Never mind.
I made it so...
You're muted, by the way. I don't know why. You can unmute yourself.
There. Sorry, no, it was just so that, like, if chat was speaking to me, I wasn't bothering you guys. I went ahead and put it so that the people with the debate function can get in. So, everybody with the debates role on their list can get in, and I'm right about to change it. Wow. I thought I was doing debate because I'm wearing a polo shirt, but that's fuck, man. Okay.
Hey, look, I remember this. I remember this from high school, right? It's like, what? You show up in short dress, no?
Okay, well, I usually show up to my debates wearing pajamas, but yeah, that works.
Yeah, no, I haven't worn a suit to debate since high school. I mean, I'm wearing a shirt with Gemini on it from Tentry. I'm not sponsored. I just like their clothes.
Very nice. Oh, this is a parliamentary debate. I need a wig. Hold on, I got this.
Yeah, it's Canadian parliamentary. It's Canadian parliamentary, so it's better than American parliamentary. Is the moral of that story?
And even then, only the Speaker of the House in the UK Parliament has a wig. Only the Speaker, not the members.
Oh, if I'm not a speaker, I'm going to have to get rid of this thing, is what you're saying.
No, the Speaker. So it would be the judge.
Got it.
Yeah, I'm not wearing a wig. Sorry, fellas. Okay. I'm just going to get started with some basic definitions. I don't know how much you know, so if I'm telling you words and you know what they mean, feel free to just tell me and I will skip right through it and we can just get to the debate sooner. And I can do more time on the decision and on feedback. So just making sure you can see my screen. I am currently sharing it.
One moment.
It's just an empty whiteboard right now.
I love empty whiteboards. Okay, perfect. It's
Sorry for the watermark. I have the free version.
I mean, on my end, it's debating whether or not it wants to show for me. So give me a sec.
Okay.
Can everybody else see it properly?
Questionable.
Okay,
It's
yeah,
just
it's just
loading.
it's just
yeah.
loading for me.
It's loading. Just a second.
Maybe you want to stop and start your stream?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do.
Okay.
Let's restart that here. If not, I will just pull up a PowerPoint that I already have, but I don't like my PowerPoint for CP as much. So I'd
Hello,
rather do
everybody.
this. Can you see it now? Is it better?
It's contemplating its existence.
Okay, let's try.
Yeah, it is.
It's working?
No, it's not working. It's contemplating.
Oh, it's contemplating its existence. Okay.
Yeah, that one.
Okay, so we're gonna use my favorite strategy, which is give up and move on.
Okay. Yeah.
So now I'm gonna go pull up my PowerPoint, which I have for this. Please hold. And if the PowerPoint doesn't work, then I will simply explain things verbally and hope to the fullest of my capacities that it sticks. Nope, that's the wrong window to share. Is it better now?
Hold on.
Yes, I can see it now.
Fantastic.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Canadian parliamentary debate, here we go. If you've done British parliamentary debate, this will look very familiar. If you've done American parliamentary debate, please listen closely. Because Canadian parliamentary is most certainly superior. Okay. So this is everything this is what I just talked about before, with the attack the points, not their personhood, be respectful, don't be a bad person. Every debate, there's two sides. So this is not Model UN. We're not trying to make a compromise. There's proposition, which is going to support whatever motion is put forward, and opposition, which is going to oppose whatever motion is put forward. This is probably something you've encountered even on Twitch debate and all debate styles. The motions for Canadian parliamentary are worded as this house, and then the actual motion. The this house part is what TH stands for. So the TH is not the important part. The important part is whatever follows after. So there are some different letters that can mean different types of motions. So if it's a capital W, like it is in my slide, it's a would motion, so it's a policy motion, so should we do something? So the example there is this house would ban zoos and aquariums, so it's should we ban zoos and aquariums?
By the way, okay, now I see something. It was a white screen for a little bit, but
yeah. So another type of motion is like believes that motions, regrets motions, supports motions. So there are just different ways of asking the same question, but you can flip sides. You can have different whether like a believes that motions are more principled, regrets motions are more like comparative as to two worlds kind of thing. So I'm not going to go in depth on those today because only one debate. It's not that big of a deal. But if you were to continue this further, there would be more nuances to consider. When I teach this at the debate camp, I talk about how arguments are like a house. But I'm going to get to that when I talk about constructive structure. So let's just move into definitions, just different debate words. This is going to be the part I'm going to move through a little bit faster. So if at any point there's something you don't understand, please stop me. Yeah. So first, constructive arguments. These are just new points that you're coming up with for your side. You're going to use this in any argument discussion you have ever. But in a debate speech, there's a few different debate words that are important and that get used a lot throughout the circuit, and that really are kind of integrated into the structure of a constructive argument. So first is your title. This is just what you're going to call your point. This is the least important of the structure. Then you've got your premise, and your premise is if you do philosophy, it's the axiom upon which you build your argument, but it's just something that is taken to be true so that the rest of your argument is correct. So for example, in the motion this house would legalize all drugs, you have to assume that drugs are bad for the op case to work. So if
by the way, like we keep on losing your slides. I don't know if you pressed them.
Is it here now?
Now it's there. Cool.
Now it's there. Okay. So yeah, so a premise is just something you take to be true, or like going back to the motion from the previous slide, this house would ban zoos and aquariums. a lot of the animal rights discussion has to revolve around the fact that animal rights are important to a certain extent. And that is the premise upon which your argument relies, is that animals feel pain, therefore we should probably not want them to suffer, and we should, in order to avoid that suffering. So that is the premise upon which an argument rests. Mechanism, I'm going to save to explain after impact. So an impact is just the real-life consequence that your argument has. So, for example, in this house would legalize all drugs, your impact is probably going to be the health of users, or it's going to be tax costs or angry boomers or whatever, but it's the real-life consequences that your arguments have. Your mechanism, then, is your link between your premise and your impact. So how do you get from drugs are bad to, okay, now we have an unhealthier group of people. So, for example, in the op case of this house would legalize all drugs, your mechanism would probably be something along the lines of when it's legal, it's more accessible, more people are willing to do it, and so you're going to get more people who, when they consume drugs, are going to suffer from those consequences, and they're going to, because of that, be in a worse health condition. The link here is the link to the motion. Now, sometimes this is implicit within the mechanism itself, but sometimes it's not. And basically, what that is how does your motion change now? How does it different from the other side? So, for example, in the motion, this house would ban zoos and aquariums. Gov can say zoos are bad, but it doesn't really make a difference if we ban zoos if the animals are going to go to equally bad conditions in a pet owner's house. So, linked to the motion, why does banning zoos and aquariums help to make their condition better, right? How does that make animals live better lives? So that's the general structure behind a constructive point. Those are going to be the general things that you're going to find within every argument that you make. And honestly, if you've done debating before, you've probably just made arguments with these things in them, but now we have words for them in parliamentary debate. How to come up with arguments? Two general strategies I like to teach. The first is what's called an actor map. And this is basically where you write the motion in the middle of your page, and then you do like a bubble chart where you ask who is affected by the motion, and then your answer to each of those questions is an actor. So, for example, in the motion, this house would legalize drugs. Who is affected? Users. Who is affected? Dealers. Who is affected? The new distributors, right? So, when you answer each of these questions, you're likely to gonna come out with an argument for at least one side, if not both. And so, if you do an actor map, you'll definitely come up with enough enough arguments that you need. Sometimes reading the motion can also be helpful too. So there's also something called like an actor motion in debate where you do this house as a particular individual or group would do something or believes that something. So for example, this house as pick your favorite Eastern Bloc country would militarize in the face of Russia. And so the motion is about what is best for that nation that you've picked. It's not about what's best for the world in general, it's what's best for that nation. So often that can come up with some inspiration for the motion, for your arguments. Any questions on this slide?
Nothing on my end.
Fantastic. Looks like I'm doing my job. Okay, the second important thing is what's called clash. And the difference between a lot of public speaking styles that aren't parliamentary debate and parliamentary debate is clash. Because otherwise, I know the stream just went away. I'm going to bring it back
for us.
Yeah, I'll bring it back in a sec.
Okay.
The difference is that other parliamentary styles are like 6 consecutive speeches. That's what you have in Lincoln Douglas, where it's just a bunch of public speeches, not much engagement. It's prepped. You just zoom through as many points as possible. Clash is the difference in a lot of is the difference between this style and some other styles that you might have seen before. So the first important thing is to attack the individual points of the structure on the previous page. And it's not enough to just say it's wrong. You have to say why the analysis is wrong, why it's wrong. So there's two different strategies you can employ with this. The first is to attack each of the different elements of that structure that we talked about. So if their premise is faulty, you can just attack the premise, and then none of the rest of the argumentation will stand. Ideally, you have multiple lines of refutation, so you say, okay, their premise is wrong, but even if their premise was right, here's why their mechanisms are wrong. So attack the individual points within the structure. The second strategy is to look at it as more of a general approach. And what are the three reasons why something could be wrong? It's not true. So someone has just said something that is factually incorrect. Second, it's not relevant, so it's not as important as something else, and that's weighing, which is another debate word, which I don't think I'm going to have time to get around to today. Or third is it's not exclusive, which goes back to the link from the previous slide, which is it doesn't only happen on one side. Here's where I want to flag something else about this style of debate, which is that it's more important to give 2 or 3 well fleshed out arguments than it is to give 7 arguments that are each one-liners. Why is this true? 1, because it's easier to take down these arguments. If you only give 1 line of constructive analysis, I only have to give 1 line of refutation to disprove you. But there's also something that in the US is called a gut bias, in the rest of the world it's called an intuition check, and basically what it means is that if an argument doesn't seem viable, it doesn't seem realistic, the judge doesn't have to hear refutation to have it be wrong. So I know a lot of the, I've seen some stuff on this channel recently has been about flat earth stuff. If you make an argument about how the earth is flat in a debate, the judge doesn't have to consider it. I don't have to hear refutation to know that that's wrong. Which is why often there can be a lot of left-leaning bias in debate, because a lot of right-wing people tend to be flawed in their analysis. So you don't have to buy analysis if it's not true. Which is why it's better to make 2 or 3 good points than it is to make 4, 5, 6, 7 one-liners. The last thing I want to talk about under Clash is about rebuilding. And basically the principle here is there's more than one speaker on a given team. So you're going to tell the judge why your partner is still right. And there's 2 different ways to do this. The first is to add to your partner's content. So if your partner missed a mechanism that you talked about in prep, but they just forgot to say for whatever reason, you can add that. Or if you realize that, oh crap, maybe what my partner said is really vulnerable to this response, and even if it hasn't been given yet, it could still be given. Let's cover that up before any of that happens. This you can cover up with positive rebuilding. You're adding content to your partner. What's important here is that you don't repeat your partner. I know what they said. You have to add something new. So either tell me why it's the most important thing in the round, or add a new mechanism, add a new impact, but don't just repeat it, because I'm writing things down, I'm taking notes, I know what they said. The second type of rebuilding is what's called negative rebuilding. And this is rebuilding by proxy. Because what's happened is, say you're on proposition goes first, so I'm going to get to that in a second. But say you're on proposition speaks, they give a constructive argument. Opposition stands up, they refute it. Right now, the best reason the judge has to believe that these arguments are wrong is because of the refutation that has been given to them. If I can explain why the refutation that has been given is wrong, my partner's arguments must still be right because the criticisms to them are wrong. So, given that, if you can refute the refutation, your partner is going to be right by proxy. As you can see on the PowerPoint, it's important to take good notes of both what your partner said and what they missed, and of what the other team says and what they missed. I'm going to get to note-taking at the end, I believe. But basically, have a plan a little bit for what you're going to say in your speech, because otherwise you're going to stand up and you're just going to go, and it happens. It happens to all of us, but if you write things down, you can help avoid that. So make sure to engage with what your partner said, engage with what the other team has said about your partner. Any questions on the Clash slide?
You Gucci.
Fantastic. I will move on to the model. The model is basically the way in which the debate is set up. So ignore the scrolling bit. The at the end stuff is for university style. You're not learning that today. If you want me to come back, I'll explain the differences between this and what's happens at the university level. But basically, you have to go with the motion that I give you. you can't reinterpret it. You have to go with the motion as it's worded and in the spirit of the motion. That shouldn't be a problem today, though the motion I have is pretty clear. So the first thing here I have down is definition of terms. If you go back to the way motions are worded, it's this house, whatever. It's just about how the presumable house would implement such policies. So going back to my classic example of this house would legalize drugs, how are we going to legalize drugs? How is it going to take place? How are we going to set it up? Some debates will require like what are drugs, but in this case it's like pretty clear it's illegal narcotics. Like it's not a real concern. The only thing that is sometimes relevant is where the debate takes place. So some instances it'll be just the entire world and it's not a real concern. But sometimes it'll be more region specific. So the examples I gave earlier of where it's this house as whatever means that the house, like the perspective is from the perspective of whoever you're given. But sometimes you get to choose. So sometimes it's better to just make it Western liberal democracies just because that's where it's implementable. So sometimes justice motions, it's just not possible to put them in autocratic systems. So we don't want to make the debate messy and include them. So we just say it's just in stable democracies where we can implement these motions. Sometimes for like high schoolers as well, it'll be more restrictive as in terms of that. But the only reason the model is important is just to set up the debate, make sure it's not messy. The only person who really has to care about this is the first speaker on government. No one else really has to care about it, unless it's bad. If it's bad, then the first speaker on opposition has to call it out. But I'm sure you guys aren't going to have a problem with this. It's not going to be a problem. Just at the top of the first speech, tell me about how this is going to kind of roll down. But with the motion today, it's not a problem at all. Any questions on any of the debate terms, definitions that I've laid out so far?
Oh yeah, no, like I think that happened to one of my friends once when he was like at a debate competition. There, the proposition failed to define what the house is, right, and define the model, and so he went up as the first opposition speaker and it's like, well, as the proposition has failed to define these terms, I have taken it upon myself to define it for them.
Yeah, so that's bad. Here's the thing. Definitions are not always necessary. So in the motion, this house would ban zoos. You don't really need a definition. You don't need a model because it's pretty intuitive. Right? You're just going to say zoos are gone. Be gone. But in instances where it is important and there isn't anything, you can either offer that in a point of clarification, which I'm going to explain later, or you play with the most reasonable definitions, probably what you would assume to be the most fair, and you play ball so that you would have a good debate. Is that reasonable?
Fair.
I think it's pretty reasonable. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to logistics, just like how a debate actually rolls down. I know there are a lot of arrows, and I know there's a lot on this slide, but we've really seen a lot of this already. So there's two different time splits that you can do on each side. Ignore the numbers for now. I'll get to those in a second. Basically, government goes, then opposition goes, then government goes, and opposition goes either once or twice, depending on your time split, and then government finishes the debate. So government starts the debate, they introduce their bill, and they close the debate. So, model, in the first speech only. Then you have 2 to 3 constructive arguments. The first speaker on proposition has nothing else to do but build their own points because there's nothing else to do. There's nothing to refute. The other side hasn't said anything. Then, first opposition stands up. The main job of first opposition is to build the case for op. and to give the 2 or 3 constructive arguments. However, it is also like you have to refute first government, because otherwise, when second government stands up, they can just say, oh, opposition didn't challenge us. It's not fair now because I'm the last constructive speaker. I'm the only one with any real time left. So you have to refute first government in the first opposition speech, but the constructive takes priority. In the second government speech, you have to refute the first opposition constructive case and rebuild your partner. Remember, that's from positive and negative rebuilding. You can give an extra constructive point if you have time or if you really care about it, but the majority of the constructive material should come out of the first speeches on both sides. A, because you have more time for it, but B, just out of fairness, if you introduce new constructive late, the other side has less time to respond to it, which makes it unfair, and even if it seems like it's strategically advantageous, you will get docked for it. And I've actually won debates because the other team has introduced content too late. So don't do it. Then second op stands up and does basically the same thing as second gov, except it's still rebuilding one partner, but now it's refuting both government speakers, instead of just refuting the one opposition speaker. And that's simply because of chronology. Then there's the reply speech. I'm going to get to explaining that in a second. So, all you need to know about the reply speeches for now is it goes opposition first, then government second. So, let's talk about time splits now. On government, there's 2 different ways you can split your time. Either 7 minutes in the first speech, 7 minutes in the second speech, or 3 minutes in the final speech. Or you can do the second one, which is called PMRE, which is 6 minutes in the first speech, 7 minutes in the second speech, 4 minutes in the final speech. And honestly, this one is pretty subjective, and I like them both. Do them depending on how much content you feel you can fit in this first speech. If you're really like crammed for content in this first speech, take the 7. But if not, try and save more time here to clash with the other side because they both had 10 straight minutes. On op, it's either basically the split, like the traditional split on gov, where it's 7 minutes for the first speech, 7 minutes for the second speech, and then that 7, instead of going back to government, it's 3 minutes for the reply. Or you can just fuse these last 2 speeches together and create one 10-minute speech where it's 7 minutes to the first speaker and 10 minutes to the second speaker. And I'm not gonna lie, the 10 minutes is unstrategic unless like one speaker on a team is drastically much better than the other, because 10-minute speeches are hard to pay attention to and will have you falling asleep very quickly. Because 10 minutes is a long time, and even if you fill your time, your judge might just check out by minute 5, because there's 5 minutes to go at minute 5. In terms of the like special letters here, it's just Prime Minister, Minister of the Crown, and Prime Minister reply, Leader of the Opposition, Member of the Opposition, and Leader of the Opposition reply. It doesn't mean anything. I just call them first and second government or first and second opposition, as you've heard me do. The most important part, though, is the order. So it goes government, opposition, and then opposition again if you split it, and then back to government to end the debate. Any questions on this?
I guess at the top of your speech, or like at the top of you going, you will announce which one are you doing. Are you doing split or long form? Correct?
Yeah, so the way that works is at the start of the round of debate, the judge will ask, which are you going to do?
Okay, perfect.
And so at the high school level, you have to decide before the first government speaker stands up, but at the university level, you can decide after the first government has finished their speech, and then you can just decide when you stand up. So, like, today we'll do whatever you want. If you know what you're going to do by the end of, or by the start of the round, you can do that. If you need until the end of the Prime Minister's speech to figure it out on op, that's fine. I'm not going to be a hard ass about it. Yeah. So just remember, don't dump your constructive in the latter speeches. Okay. I hinted at reply speeches earlier, and don't worry, POIs are coming up right away after this. So reply speeches are basically, so they're the final speeches on either side, as you saw in here. So each side gets one, and even if it's not split explicitly in this 10-minute speech, you're supposed to integrate the principles of a reply speech into that 10 minutes. Either explicitly at the end in the 3 minutes at the end, or implicitly throughout the 10-minute speech. Basically, the way kind of basic teachers start off by explaining this is it's a biased summary of the round. So your goal is to refute and rebuild everything that's happened in the debate from you and your partner, and organize it such that you end up winning. And if you don't end up winning, you're doing something wrong. Important thing is you can't bring new constructive material. There's 4 constructive speeches. You have 14 minutes to do that. You have plenty of time to get it out of the way. If you have new pieces of material in the reply, that's too bad. You can try and fake it by integrating it into refutation or rebuilding, but I'm going to see it. So you can try and fly it by me. Take that risk if you want. So just be careful of that. But you, especially on government, where you have 10 minutes of ops case to respond to, like, it's fine to bring up new refutation and new rebuilding if necessary. Some people, so there's 2 general ways of going about this. Some people will literally just do a they said what I'm going to say chart. And this is part of the notes that I'm going to talk about later, but basically this is just one style in which you can take notes, where it's literally a chi chart of here's what the other side said, here's what I'm going to say to respond to what they've said and why they're wrong. And this is literally how some people will structure their reply. Like what one team said, why they're wrong, and ultimately why we win. Like, we win if they're wrong. The other style is more kind of meta, where it's here's the title of a theme or the title of a question. Here's what the other team said under this point of clash, under this question. Here's what we said, and here's why we're right. And this is where I would encourage you to ask yourselves the question of, why do we win? And the basic answer is weighing, which is the keyword I alluded to earlier. And I think I have time to explain it, so I'm going to do like a quick 3-line explanation of what weighing is. Give me a metric as to why you win. Second, prove to me as to why that metric is legitimate, why it's the right metric. And third, prove to me why your arguments specifically fit under this metric in this theme. And if you win all the points of clash in the round, all the themes in the round, you inevitably win the round as a whole. Beginners tend to use this style just because it's simpler, but feel free to use whichever one you feel more confident with. Last thing in terms of like actual structure is points of information or points of clarification. Basically, this isn't the only opportunity where you get to interrupt another person's speech. So in person, you would just stand up, as I think Azekreth you said earlier. But online, you can only stand up in the camera. So feel free to stand up in the camera if you are so inclined. But the way you ask a POI online is either in the chat. So you just type POI in the POI chat that we have on this Discord server, in the POI channel of CP Room 1. You can unmute yourself and say verbally POI, or as I already said, you can gesture in the camera. Basically, it's a question or a statement that you're going to try and do to insert your own content or insert a piece of refutation into another team's speech. As a speaker, you have 3 options when you receive a POI. So someone stands up, you can either say no, which I encourage you to do. You could say yes, but that's honestly not a great option. Your third option is to say not at this time. And that is the one I recommend. Because if you take a POI, you are always going to engage with the other team because you have to answer the question if you take it. So if you're answering a question from the other side, you're engaging with them, you're clashing with them, you're proving that you're better than them. It's good to accept POIs. It's just strategically beneficial. And so I encourage you to do the I'll take you in a minute, because if you take it in the middle of your sentence, you're never going to get back to that sentence. So finish your idea, say I'll take you in a second, and then take. But also feel free to just say no if you have too much content to get through. When offering your POIs, write them down so that you don't forget them. I can't tell you how many times both beginners and competitive debaters will just stand up and blank and either ask something stupid or not ask anything at all. So don't be the sacrificial lamb, and write down your POIs before you say them. The types of questions you want to ask are things that are either important within your own case that you want them to engage with, or new pieces of refutation that you have, or pieces of refutation that they didn't engage with in their rebuilding that you want them to address because you think it's persuasive. So going back to my respect thing, it's important not to badger people, especially online, where if you're doing it verbally, it can be a lot. So just don't harass people. If they say no, give them like 30 seconds and then offer another one. Because otherwise it's not fair to the speaker. They can't get through their speech. The best way to figure out how it's best to offer someone POIs is literally just at the top of your speech, say, I would prefer my POIs in the chat, or I would prefer my POIs verbally, or whatever you would like. And then that way, everyone's on the same page, and there's no confusion. The last thing on this slide is points of clarification. Points of clarification are basically just model questions. This is not a chance to refute the model, because the model is just supposed to be fair. It's just if the model is wrong, this is your chance to point it out to make the round run more smoothly. Remember, because the first speaker on government is the only one giving the model, you can only offer these to the first speaker who is giving the model. You can't offer them to anyone else because it wouldn't make sense. So same thing as a POI, same procedure, except you would type POC in the chat instead of POI, or you would unmute and say POC instead of POI. Something else to note that isn't on this slide is you cannot POI your partner. You're on the same team, you're working together, you don't want to throw them off. So leave that to the other team to try and throw them off. The last thing I will say is there's such a thing as protected time. So you can't POI someone at all times. You have to wait until the first minute is done, and you cannot do it in the last minute. And that's just for like logistical purposes. So the timer bot that is in this server, that you can start by typing .t space 7m enter, will start a timer for you. And after 1 minute, it'll give you a signal. With 1 minute remaining, it will give you a signal. So I encourage you to use that, or I can start the timer for you. And that will be clear to everyone.
Could you
Any
be the one?
on
Could you be the one to go ahead and set up timers? Just because I don't think any of us have experience with the bot, so.
Yeah. So here, I'm gonna go in the POI channel. So if you could direct your attention to that, it's
Okay.
.t space 7m. So if you look, there's the timer. That's what it looks like. And at the 1 minute marker, we'll give you a 1 minute timer. I'll leave this going just so you can see what it looks like. And since your speeches are going to be 7 minutes long, that's a 7 minute timer right there.
Okay.
If you
perfect.
do a 6 minute speech, your protected time is 30 seconds. So instead of watching for the 1 minute mark that it's going to give you, just watch the specific timer for 30 seconds to be elapsed or remaining. Last thing is on note taking. This is for beginners, and you all know how to take notes at this point. This is just what one of my pages of notes looks like after a debate round. This is from when I was second government. So what my partner said is on the left, what first opposition said is in the middle, and then what I plan to say is on the right. And then we already talked about this. Okay. Any questions on any of this? I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
No. I guess I just wanted to make sure everybody knows that, when we break off into our teams, we're obviously going to go ahead and talk about what our points are. So please be courteous and not watch our streams while we're going ahead and making up our points, because obviously if you're able to already see exactly what we're going to be saying, that's a bit unfair. So yeah, just don't watch our streams, essentially. If you're somebody that's already on like our chat, you could stay in the chat, especially since I guess as I'm the host, I'm probably the one that has the more people in chat. So obviously, if you want to go ahead and engage with chat, that's fine. Just I guess mute the tab, because obviously, when we're going ahead and talking about all of our points, I'm not going to be holding my book up to the screen, so like you won't know what my points are. So just stay in chat, and then I've been typing a little bit out to chat, but I just wanted to go ahead and like say it out loud. So for all of you guys that are here, whenever I go ahead and host anything that requires somebody that's outside of the Twitch community to come and help, I always want to make sure that I'm paying them for their time. So if any types of bits, subs, donos, anything, 30% of it goes directly to our lovely mod. He's also going to be judging as well. So he'll be muting people if they're screaming on top of each other. And he'll also, be the one that tells us at the end of the debate who won. So, if you want to support him for taking this time out on his Sunday, thank you in advance. Yeah.
All right. Last thing, have you divvied up teams?
I
You want me to do
have. I've
Okay,
already.
fantastic.
So I'm gonna be with Owl for the sole purpose of, well, it's unfair if I'm with Mad Lad because we're literally on debate panels every 5 minutes, and I don't want to be with Azekreth because Azekreth knows me personally, so I'm afraid that he will accidentally say what my real name is. So with that, I will go ahead and be with Owl.
Okay. So in that case, I'm just gonna say Team A and Team Not A because Azekreth and Aladdin start with A, and everyone else does not start with A. So Team A, you'll be on proposition. Team Not A, you'll be on opposition.
Okay.
So as you can see in the CP room 1, there are proposition and opposition prep rooms for you. So feel free to move into there and talk during the duration of your prep. I encourage you to communicate. If you need me, you can tag me and I can come in and help you. And just like talk to you, try and help you brainstorm arguments, develop them, but I'm not going to give them to you, obviously. Just like out of A, fairness, and B, it's less fun if I give you arguments. So what I will do though is I'm going to put the motion and its correct wording in the POI chat. I'm going to tag here, so at here. So it'll come up in a second.
Okay. And then I will also read it to chat, and I will change the name of the stream so people know what it is as well.
Yeah. So Team A on prop, Team Not A on op. The motion reads, this house would reintroduce religion to a post-apocalyptic society. Reading.
Okay.
A little bit of an interesting one. I hope you enjoy.
Okay.
How I see you reacting to that one a little bit. I'm glad.
I'm very familiar with arguments for religion, so this is kind of in my wheelhouse.
Well, it's not an argument for or against religion, right? It's an argument for or against religion in a post-apocalyptic society. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a 15-minute timer on in the POI chat, so you can keep track of it at all times. But in general, the time is 3:50 now. The round will start at 4:05. So
can we push it back just a little bit? I need to use the restroom real quick, and I don't want to use that time. No, use the time to prepare for that. Is it okay?
Yeah, it's relaxed. Relax.
Okay.
Just come back at 05, and if you're not ready, we'll push it. Like, it's fine.
Okay.
4:10 then. Can we do 4:10 like officially? Is that
Sure. We'll do 4:10 officially.
cool? Because I'm gonna get a suite for myself, and then. All right, so I'm gonna go to prop prep. I've got a wireless headset, so we can already proceed in talking as. Are you ready for this? All right, I'm gonna drop down and I'm gonna get my suite.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop down.
Yeah, and come back to CP voice channel when you're done. So don't come back to this room. Come back to CP voice channel.
Okay, perfect. See you guys.
All right, I'll be 1 second. I just need to use the restroom.
Okay, yeah, no problem. I'm just gonna go ahead and change the scene. Oops. Hold on. You know what? I'll just go back to the camera room. There we go. Hello. Let me just go ahead and fix that. You know, it's not like I'm using up too much of the time anyways, because I am trying to figure out how to make sure you guys can see things. And also, chat, even if you guys love me, don't give me any ideas, want to do this fair and square. If you give ideas, I just won't be able to check chat for a while. So, okay, let me go ahead and change my scene. Turn on my cam. Hello. No ideas, no ideas, no ideas. I know, but you could definitely, you know, when we go off, you can definitely say, damn, poggers, fucking pog, yo, base, fucking lit, based, poggers. Exactly, just like that. Everyone knows how much I fucking love the emote wall, so just go off on the emote wall. This house will, yeah, the topic is this house will reintroduce religion to a post-apocalyptic society. Definitely want to make sure I'm checking to see what apocalyptic is in case they don't actually define it. Apocalyptic. I just want to see like exactly what does it mean apocalypse. Damn. The word apocalypse doesn't fucking mean anything. Something very hidden. Okay. What does it... Apocalypse meaning... Okay, there. Final destruction of the world. Wow. Well, I guess... Oh, this is hard. Because it's like, what is the apocalypse due to? Is it due to religion? Like, is it due to, like, let's say, you know, finally God comes down and saves all of us. Theoretically, like, now are we going ahead and, like, reintroducing religion to those that were left behind? Is it just, like, Armageddon? Fuck. I'm gonna kind of just assume... Hey, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
I'm so ready because I'm like very anti-religion in my day-to-day life, so this will be super easy.
Yeah. So I think for me, if they don't go ahead and define it themselves, I would just assume that like we're gonna reintroduce. Well, what do you think it exactly means when they say apocalypse?
So I'm less worried about apocalypse and more on their definition of religion, because a lot of people will try and make the argument that like atheism or other things are a religion, or like, you know, fandoms are a religion and stuff like that. So I think if they give a pretty specific definition, such as like, you know, Christianity or something built around a deity, I think it'd be a little bit easier to argue against.
Well, first of all, we have to decide really quickly which one of us are the leaders. Are you opening and closing, or are you the middle person that goes ahead and refutes everyone else's points from the middle?
Do you feel like you'd be comfortable leading in this sort of topic?
Well, you seemed like you just fucking did a nut when you heard what the topic was, so perhaps you'd just love to have all the extra time on it.
Yeah, I really, because I used to be Christian, and so a lot of like my formative years in my teenage years was just consuming like Matt Dillahunty and stuff like that, and just like absorbing arguments for and against religion and stuff like that.
Well, okay, so just let me know which one you want to go with, because you know, obviously, if you're the first, you're also the last, which means you have the most time. But also, like, if you feel very confident on this, I want you to have as much time as possible. Just because I'm the Twitch debate, you know, e-girl doesn't mean that, and like I want to go ahead and necessarily take up all your time. So just up to you. Can we just say so I can tell like how much work am I gonna have to go ahead and do?
Yeah, I think I'll start off.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So I'm thinking a good thing is like if it's post-apocalyptic, we definitely are gonna need to go ahead and work together. Reintroducing religion is gonna go ahead and faction off people, which is gonna make it so much harder to go ahead and rebuild society. As we can see, you know, there's been already like thousands of years of war over religion. So why would we go ahead and already put this disenfranchised and like very unlikely to survive world at a further disadvantage by factioning us off?
And not only that, magical thinking a lot of the time can lead to bad outcomes, like pseudoscience or like homeopathy and stuff like that. And so we
So,
can also
in
on
a
that as well.
Yeah, so an important part of the debates is that you need to make sure that you're having a couple of arguments. Not only are you taking notes to refute, you need to make sure you have more than just one strong argument. So typically, when I used to do it, I would make like three arguments. So, like, I guess the first one of them will be harder to rebuild if we're factioning. Um, yeah, harder to rebuild if we're factioning. Uh, you said that it might lead to pseudoscience. Can you explain how that would be disadvantage? Because we already have a society of pseudoscience.
Yeah.
How would that put
Yeah,
us at a further disadvantage, I
So
guess?
put us at a further disadvantage because if it's a post-apocalypse, there likely are less humans, and we want to keep them alive as long as possible. And typically, when pseudoscience gets introduced to a population, people start dying off from bad medical practices and
Okay, that's,
and
yeah.
and poor medical responses to certain things.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Make sure you're taking notes for yourself as well. I have a pen and pencil in front of me. Sorry, I have a pen and paper, and that's like you need to make sure that you're actually doing that because they're gonna say things, and I find even in Twitch debate, quite often we forget what each other is saying, but it's important that you're actually refuting here, because there are winners and losers, and I'm here to win. So we need to make sure you're putting that to paper. So yeah, with decreased population, going ahead and just like not believing in true science is going to be a huge issue. Yeah. And then what's
Yeah.
another one that? Hello, FFDFE 5454. Thank you for
Hi.
coming.
I can only really think of a refutation because one of the things that they might bring up is that religion is important for social cohesion, but I think we can achieve social cohesion secularly.
Yeah.
So that's more of a refutation.
Yeah. So it is possible that you could come with these two openers, and then during my time of hearing other people speak, I can rebuild I could break down their refutations while also going ahead and thinking of a new thing so that I can actually like create one new point to add. Um, I think that's allowed.
Okay.
Yeah, that should be fine. So, yeah. So, with decreased population, harder to survive if we're not using real science. Okay. And then also a good thing is like you need to make sure that you're not there. Obviously, you can pre-think of some refutations, but like let's say if there's a point that that you think that they're gonna make, but they don't make, you can't just say, "Well, I know that you're thinking," because like, yeah, it won't work.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Like I said, so a lot of my stuff is gonna be predicated on what they say.
Yeah, of course. Let me just think of one other reason. Let me just go ahead and actually make sure I'm checking the actual question too. Yeah, this house will reintroduce religion to a post-apocalyptic society.
I think it's funny because they're gonna have a harder time having to define society post-apocalyptic
Yeah,
society
so
and
they-
religion.
Yeah, so that's some of the stuff that they're really going to have to do. They have to 100%. They need to define what post-apocalyptic is, what is exactly society, what does it look like, and what is religion. Are there different religions? Is there a uni-religion? If there's a uni-religion, a good refutation is like what is introducing? Just this is a concept. Are we going to force it onto people? Yeah.
And like how would we equip ourselves to be able to determine that this religion is true and can produce good outcomes?
Yeah, so I guess we can go ahead and listen a little bit. And then, yeah, it's good to go ahead and just think about a couple of refutations. One of the things is like when the actual debate's happening, I will go ahead and PM you, and that's going to be our way of communicating. Even during regular debates, you're allowed to sit there and whisper, but obviously we can't do that in this context. So make sure you're checking your Discord so that, we're sending each other stuff. If I hear something that I think you should really like attack, I'll send you a message. A little bit of debate etiquette too is like if you do think someone made a really good point, you can show like that was a good point, like somehow like with your hands. Yeah. But typically don't cheer on your opposition. So if I say something that you really like, then yeah, you can go ahead and like do something. So I know like go cat. It's your birthday. Okay. Could you find a way? You said that you grew up in a pretty religious household. Is there a way that you feel like would be good in introducing some of that in refutation? Because that stuff is always good.
Yeah, because I can point to a lot of situations in which my mom would try and force me to go to church against my wishes as an atheist, and that really affected my mental health because it felt like she didn't care about my position on this, and I can understand where she was coming from, considering that her religion told her that I'm going to hell because I don't believe in God, but like that's something that where it turns good people into doing terrible things.
There's probably some type of way to go ahead and like bring that up too as an opposition.
Yeah.
So not only like is it bad for going ahead and doing things that are positive society, but positive for rebuilding, but at the same time like the religion doesn't believe in it, and it's harder to rebuild because everyone's faction off. We could also say that some of the mental health parts of it, but there needs to be a way to phrase that that's a little bit more elaborate.
Though, one point I hope they don't bring up is that they're like, oh well, you can say this about other things in society and stuff like that, which can seem like a good point, but upon inspection you can be like, no, well, sure, other things in society do lead to similar outcomes as religion, but religion also encourages and fortifies these other things that.
Can you think of what might be the thing that they could potentially bring up as a refutation that would give a similar outcome?
Oh, well, they can point to like secular Republicans that still oppose like abortion and stuff like that, but the thing that we're trying to say is that religion specifically
exasperates it.
It and makes it worse.
Mm-hmm. Let me just check the chat to see if it's what exactly is the time that we put on. 1 sec. Discord. I'm excited. Like I am, as you know, like I'm the bait lord lady of.
Oh yeah, I'm so glad this was the topic because I know a lot about it, and I'm on the side that I agree with, so it's a lot easier for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna just check POI really quick. 19 minutes. Okay, yeah, we have 6 more minutes left, so it's okay. Okay. Cool.
Ooh, so if their religion involves a god, we could possibly also do refutations in regards to like questioning, how their god functions and stuff like that. And basically be like, if what utility is brought about by believing in this god if you can't really prove that like he exists or intervenes in our world, so like what would really be the ultimate utility of it?
Yeah, I think like for us, since we already have 2 like pretty good points to go ahead and refute on, as long as we have as long as we're able to go ahead and message each other, like I'm gonna make sure I have my Discord open so that like I can like speed type and be like, yo, like there's definitely like on their end, it's gonna be really difficult to go ahead and build something up properly. And if they miss anything of the definition, if anything's unclear, that's definitely a good point to go ahead and attack on, because if there's everything needs to be crystal clear. And like going ahead and like, what do we mean? Like, what is reintroduce? Like, why will, like, we're going to need to give a lot of specifics as to, like, what has happened. Because post-apocalyptic isn't a clear enough saying in itself. So, yeah, there's going to be, they need to do at least, like, a pretty good, like, 2 minutes of just world building here. Yeah. And, like, also, who is this house? That's also important, as always. What is this house? Is it, hey, Rumi. Is this house, like, Canada? Is this house the whole world? Like, like yeah, who's reintroducing exactly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like and how do the hierarchies function in this religion? Like, are we all being collective, or is there like some sort of, stacked hierarchy like in the Catholic Church, stuff like that?
Yeah. Mm. Also to chat, thank you for all the wishes. Honestly, even if you guys like me, which I'm assuming you kind of do because you're on my channel, 100% like I'm trying to build this whole thing of like more constructive thinking on Twitch. So like even if you like me, I want you to really listen for who's being rhetorically effective and who's like being logically steel rather than who has a really good voice. So even if I'm not the best, you should still be encouraging the person that is the best. And I'm happy that we have a judge that's like outside of us right now because I want to know whether or not I win for real. So I think like on our end we might be good. Do you want to go ahead and hop into the other channel?
Yeah, I'm just gonna type up a little bit of a opening statement, and sort of shift it based on what they give us.
Okay, sounds good. So I'm gonna go ahead and hop into the CP voice channel, and yeah, I will check you soon.
Okay, me too.
Bye. Okay. Hello. Hello, hello, hello. I'm just going ahead and fixing something on my channel. Sorry.
Y'all are back early, eh? Taking the 2 minutes, confident.
Yeah, no, it's just, I just missed you so much, Ark, I just had to see your face again. Here, there we go. I'm just transitioning, there we go, beautiful, aha.
So thoughts on the motion, you like it?
It's a good motion. I think it's a very fair motion for both sides to go ahead and work on.
I picked it.
Yeah. It wasn't until like my first debate competition where I realized that there's something as like a motion being too sticky. So like, or like too tight. Yeah, a motion that's too tight. So, I went ahead and like proposed a motion about making a university free for BIPOC people.
Like, there's no op to that. It does not exist.
Yeah, just because I was like advocating like, yeah, like, BIPOC people are more disenfranchised, so like we should have access to free university. 100% too tight. But I didn't know that was a thing. I thought I was really gonna like I was a noob.
What was the war between Catholics and Arabs in the Middle East way back when?
Oh, I know what you
Which
mean.
one?
Is it the Crusaders? No, something related to that time period though.
It was the something crusade. The Catholic
Okay.
Crusader, something like that.
There were like several crusades.
Yeah, one of the
Okay.
million.
1 second, I'm just gonna go get the other people in the prop room.
Okay, sounds good. And I have your chat opened up here, so I'm ready to speed type. I have my little notebook here, so as long as we're all taking notes. And I think perhaps I'm gonna probably keep this notebook open because I have debate later too with the hippy dippy recruitment. So like on the Dylan Burns channel, and I'm definitely gonna want to make sure that I'm working a little bit more to be really, really rhetorically effective.
Yeah, I feel like the flat Earth debate, you were a little pensive at first, and you didn't really you didn't seem strong in some of the points you made, but towards the end it just like devolved so much that you were just like, okay, let's just meme.
Yeah,
Right.
and yeah.
I think pointing out the fact that physics itself would just like breaks down into their model would have been a really solid point to make against him, and the fact that we would have to rethink so many scientific facts just to accept their model.
Well, he was perfectly willing to throw it away, so like, whatever. I think it's a moot point, to be honest. Like,
Well, the thing
he
the
didn't
thing is-
care.
the th-
He
well, the
literally just didn't care.
Yeah, but showing that he didn't care about that was like the best thing, and that you did expose that towards the end, where he was just like, "Oh, I don't care about peer review and blah blah blah," which was
Yeah, he didn't give a, like, he
hilarious.
literally just didn't care.
Yeah.
I watch these YouTube's videos because I like them. He smashes them, and it's just like, but that's
Well,
your only,
no, I
that's
think-
your
I
only
think-
argument.
I
But-
think one thing as well is a lot of people don't understand what peer review is. Right? Peer review isn't like a
But-
board of like people vote on whether or not they like your argument. It's people going over and saying, yeah, methodology good, replicability probably good. It's probably good. We can probably replicate this.
Q-
I mean,
Well,
in
cuties,
certain
guys, we could
in-
talk about it more later, like right after the debate. But since our mod has to leave at like 5, we need to make sure we finish it.
Yeah,
But I have
I'd
an
rather
hour.
be gone by 5. If I have to run a couple minutes over, it's not the end of the world, but I would rather be done. By
Yeah, but we could totally have like peer review
Well,
conversation
well.
right after. I have like an hour until my next debate, so I told everyone I was just gonna fucking hang out. And if all of you guys are streaming this, just let your audience know that if they want to make sure that our lovely judge is getting at least $1.50 for being here, come over to my channel, drop a bit, and then you can come back to your channel. Okay, cool. So
Okay, so I'm just gonna do a couple of introductions. Usually at the top of a debate, there are introductions, so I'll do this like you would a normal debate, but feel free to keep it a little bit more casual. So, my name is Ark. I use masculine or neutral pronouns. I'm gonna be your chair for this round. Usually if I'd had a panel, I would let them introduce themselves as well, but I don't. It's just me. So now I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves in team and then speaking order. So if I could get your name, your speaking position, and if you'd like, you can also disclose your pronouns. And then from one of the speakers on your side, if I could get your time split as well. So starting with team government.
Hey, I'm Mad Ladden. I stream on twitch.tv/madlad_n. I will be the PM for today's speech. And was there one more thing I needed to say? I apologize.
You can do pronouns if you like, and time split.
He, him, and then the time split's going to be 773.
Fantastic. Second speaker? On prop.
Oh, yes, that's me. Azekreth, hello. I'm going to be the Minister of the Crown, and yeah, so I'm going to be Minister of the Crown. We're speaking for 7 minutes, and I guess I technically have a Twitch channel. Technically, if anybody likes what I say, to be honest, I literally don't like it. It technically exists, so if you want to subscribe, I guess just type my name. It's spelled the exact same way. I kind of harmonized all my usernames, so if you like what you see, I guess like if people sub, I might, or not sub, follow, I guess is the Twitch term. I might start doing stuff, but otherwise, like, let's go.
All right. Opposition.
My name's the Leftist Owl. I use he/him pronouns. I will be speaking first.
And second op.
hello, I am the Whip. I am on the opposition side. I will be speaking second, and we will do the split format. And I go by she, her pronouns, and I'm KataraNä, and I am coming for Vosh's title. I am going to be the newest debate bro, but with boobies.
Okay. Top quality content. So reminder to both first speakers that you're doing replies as well. So don't forget about those. Okay. So I'll be taking care of the time bot for you. All you have to do is look at the chat. If you want to specify how you'd like POIs at the top of your speech, that would also be super helpful to everyone in the round. So if you remember, feel free to do that as well. Azekreth, you have a question in the camera.
Yes, so please stand up. I like being able to wave people down.
Yeah, you can do that just at the top of your speech to remind people.
All right,
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
So, Prime Minister, whenever you're ready.
Hi, yes. So this is going to be a little bit of a contrast. I would prefer you to type in POI at the bottom. If you could, that'd be fantastic in the chat. I will see it. The House. We are the College of Physicians leading survivors of a nuclear holocaust. Nuclear strategic targets were electricity infrastructure, and we're entering a new dark age. Our engineering knowledge is gone. Paper is gone. Clay tablets will not actually hold all the information that we have to give. And so we are going to pass down all the things we know through religious ritual. I'm going to make an argument discussing how to maintain our knowledge in terms of how to acquire resources and what resources are safe. That'll be my argument 1. My argument 2 is that technology is what got us here in the first place, so we are going to maintain a Renaissance level at the max society through religious limitation. We'll talk about that. And then argument 3 is going to involve social cohesion and health benefits, the mental and physical. And that will be coming from my esteemed colleague. So getting into argument 1, the loss of know-how and resource acquisition. So if there has been a nuclear holocaust and the world's been irradiated, we need to know what animals are safe to eat. And we can go back to our previous religious experiences in regards to kosher and halal meats, and we can give folks rules on what to eat and what's not safe. And these rules will automatically enforce themselves, because if people break the rules, they will get sick and they will die. So that means eating things with only 2 eyes, 4 legs, skin and fur that is all put together without holes due to, well, we won't tell the folks that it's radiation sickness, but if they are looking sick due to radiation sickness, we will explicitly explain to them that they cannot eat that. In terms of water purification, we will not have the engineering know-how to clean our water, so we are going to improve the water, which means we're going to teach our societies to create ritual alcohols that will purify the water from evil spirits. That way they have safe drinking water. It will be called improved water. So folks can proceed to make this special alcohol that will keep the water untainted and safe for drinking. And this will also enforce itself, because if people drink tainted water, they will get sick and die. So the religion will prove itself and keep us as a society safe. Then this is going to go into all the other resources that we need to acquire. Moving on to argument 2, technology getting us here in the first place, and how we are going to address that. So technology is, in fact, the reason why a nuclear holocaust happened, and we want to keep our society at a roughly Renaissance level at the most, which means that we are going to teach our people ritualistically mathematics and counting mechanisms that are somewhat sabotagey in nature, which means we're going to use things like Roman numerals instead of the Arabic numerals, because it's harder to do mathematics with the Roman numerals, for example. And we're going to go into detail about all the different things that are required in order to accomplish the basic necessities of life, and make invention a sin. Now, of course, humanity will naturally progress and do things better. However, we are going to set up society, the roots of the society, in such a manner where the natural innovations will lead humanity as a whole towards this Renaissance era society that we envision. For argument 3, I'm going to again mention that we're talking about social cohesion aspects and the health benefits. So I'm going to talk briefly about the health benefits aspect, and my esteemed colleague will continue with the point. So health benefits from religion come in the form of therapy. It'll be built in, so folks will have the opportunity to talk about their sins and have a therapist priest absolve you of those sins and make you feel better about the things that you have done, and give guidance on the wrongs that you have done in such a way where people will be able to continue to follow the religion and continue to do the things that I listed in arguments 1 or 2. That such as eating the correct things, improving the water correctly, and making sure to acquire resources appropriately. I believe I'm done with what I wanted to say. This went a little faster than I anticipated. Do I just pause, or how does this work?
You can just end your speech early. That's fine.
Talk about my speech early. All right, great. Can I translate that extra minute to the back end? Is it too late to do that?
No, it's too late. You made your decision.
Alas, I didn't realize how fast I talk.
That's okay.
Oh, you're muted. I can't hear you.
I said I'd like to thank that first speaker for his remarks, and I'd like to invite the leader of the opposition to open up a bench and an address not exceeding 7 minutes. You're here.
Okay, so initially I want to ask, before I start sort of my opening stuff, I want to ask, what specific religion are we following? Are we following a religion that follows a god? Are we following a religion that involves, some spirituality? What specifically are you using to define religion, and how, and if there are any hierarchies within this religion, who's going to enforce these rules? I
Totally.
just want to put those questions out there, just let them sit for a bit. But my opening statement would be, if we were to rebuild a society in a post-apocalypse, religion doesn't seem to be like the way to go. It's a lot of history has shown that religion has been used to divide people. It's been used to wage wars and justify those wars. The Crusades
so much
left
fun, guys.
thousands
Oh my
dead,
God.
if not millions, simply because the powers that be
I
wanted
miss
to
debating,
expand
like,
their
proper
empire
debates. Holy shit.
and basically use the peons to their advantage. Not only does this present social destruction in a way, it also requires that everyone has the same interpretation for any sort of social cohesion. So how do we make sure people have the same interpretation of our texts, or have a consistent worldview? Because many people can take what you're saying and then twist it into something else. Albeit that can be with anything, any sort of idea. But I think religion does tend to exacerbate those tendencies within the human race. It exacerbates our want to misconstrue or to have this fanciful thinking and magical thinking, and I think typically that magical thinking leads to bad outcomes, such as pseudoscience and medical practices that end up in death. And in a society where there are few people left, we should be able to hold on to life as much as possible. And to do that, we would need actual medical practices that teach the correct medical terminology and the correct ways in which to apply these things. And saying that invention is a sin, I think, would also lead to very bad outcomes, because how would we progress? How would we advance? Would we only be able to advance due to the people in this religious hierarchy, inventing things? Or can, the more common people also invent things and progress the society as a whole? Because that's largely how we had the Industrial Revolution. We had people that were just, sort of common people come up with great ideas and be able to expand on those ideas, instead of just the state being able to make those, make them for us. And I think that concludes our statements for now.
I'll just look at the chat. Make sure you respond to the POI.
Oh, yeah, 1 second. Where's the POI?
The POI channel for this chat is CP Room 1.
I don't see a question.
Aladdin asked POI. Air POI.
Okay. Go ahead.
So my POI was in reference to your statement that human. I'm paraphrasing here. I apologize. I don't remember your precise phrasing, but you said that human advancement was. I just want to make sure you're saying that human advancement is a requirement for us to progress as a species or survive as a species. Can you clarify what your stance is there?
Well, if in this post-apocalypse we've reverted back to almost a primitive thing, then yes, I would say advancing technologies would help us apply medical knowledge in ways that would benefit us. So as we see today, we have so much of our medical technology because we were allowed to advance, and we were allowed to extend human life. In a post-apocalypse, extending life is probably the most important.
You have another POI from Azekreth. You can decide whether or not to take it. He's raising his hand in the camera. He didn't write anything down.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So, in the post-apocalyptic society that we live in, technology was the cause of this destruction. We nuked ourselves to death. So we are claiming to hold on to human life, but this technology that we are talking about resulted in countless billions more deaths than anything that you have mentioned. So how is this progress? Sure, it's temporary, but in the end, it killed us all.
To that, I'd argue technology is not, inherently evil or inherently good. It's how we use it that matters. And if we use it to bad ends, such as causing a post-apocalypse, I'd say that that's just a bad application of technology. And that technology doesn't inherently cause those bad, people to do those bad things with that technology. Go ahead, Mad Lad.
How do we prevent technology from being used inadequately or inappropriately, causing more death? Inevitably, as time goes on forever, there will be numerous instances of technology use being used for good and bad. How do you ensure that it's only good?
You educate people on their. I'd say that comes down more to how we restructure our society. I think that's it's a very complex question because that goes down to the very basics on how we restructure our society, what rules we set for our society, and how we align our morals. So, if we restarted society and we ended up in a fascistic society, we would more than likely end up using, technology in a harmful way. Whereas if you try to restructure society in a way that most benefits human well-being, I think we would be able to make arguments for how technologies being used in certain ways would be a bad idea and try and convince people of that.
Is that it?
Yes, that's it.
All right. So heads up, in the future, we're not supposed to tell you that POIs are given. Please be actively looking in the camera and or the chat, for POIs. That's fine. I mean, it's not really going to be a problem in your next speech because the next speech you're going to give is entirely protected. There's no POIs in the reply, so it's not really a problem. Just for the next two speeches, though, speakers, please look actively for POIs. I should not intervene again. So I'd like to thank that member for his remarks, and I'd like to invite the second government speaker to continue proposition bench in an address not exceeding 7 minutes. Here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister has given us an address stating our social situation. And one of the things that we need right now, one of the things that has happened right now, is that society has collapsed and we need a way to rebuild it in a certain fashion, right? In order to, as the opposition has pointed out, preserve human life. We need to hold on to whatever life has been passed down to us that has survived. And one of the aspects of religious thinking and one of the aspects of religion that I am going to go over, and why it would be beneficial to reintroduce this religion under our guidance, of course, as the College of Physicians, as the new priesthood, would be the social cohesion benefits of religion. One of the things that has come about as a result of religion are very close-knit communities, especially surrounding a local congregation, surrounding a local priest. Right? You see churches as the foundation building block of like an institution of the local community. It does works of charity. It helps the poor. It does a lot of these things that we are going to build into our new religion, right? And one of the things it does is it brings the community together. These types of rituals are all public. Religion is not a private affair. It is first and foremost a public affair, as can be viewed from the very many types of rituals that people produce. right? And if they start doing it together, we are going to be rebuilding a community, especially lacking a sort of government overstructure that is able to provide a social safety net. Anything of that sort, we are going to be relying on our local communities more and more. And how do we bring those communities together? We unite them around religious thinking. Now, one of the things that has been said by the Prime Minister is that we are going over a period where all of our infrastructure has been destroyed, right? We have destroyed ourselves through warfare, and one of the things that we need to ensure is that this type of moral teaching is preserved, and that this doesn't happen again. And one of the things that we can do as a new religious body is instill that morality into the population that we lead to build this community. And there's no POIs. That was just something that popped up. Never mind. And so we need to instill that morality in our community. We need to prevent the fascistic society from going forward. How do we do that? We're the leaders of this new religion. We are going to instantiate this moral system in order to prevent a fascistic society from being created. What we need to do is we need to keep our society together, and that is one thing. Yes, KataraNä.
Sorry, you said fascistic, like fascism? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, that I'm
Okay,
referring
perfect.
to
Thank
the
you.
point that the Leftist Owl had made.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
So, one of the things that we need to do is we need to encourage these social goods. One of the things that we've noticed as society has been getting less religious is that these local institutions have been losing prominence within our within our social circles, and this has led to like the atomization of individuals. That's something that we kind of can't afford to do in this post-apocalypse society. We need to encourage people to come together, and how do we do that? Well, we do that through our new religious bodies, through these types of rituals, through regular weekly worship services. And what can we do to prevent that? Well, now we're going to have people, one of the rituals that they're doing is we're going to be, for example, creating holy water to make sure that the water is purified. We're going to be having people confess their sins to a therapist priest so that, every week, the mental health of the people that have survived this new apocalypse don't just have people committing suicide because everything is lost. We need to give people hope. We need to bring communities together, and this is a very big point about religion. Now, a lot of what our honorable colleagues in the opposition have brought up. Now I'm going to go on to a bit more refutation. Some of the things that our esteemed, our honorable colleagues in the opposition have gone over are things like, well, what about religious wars? Well, unfortunately, we're in the apocalypse. A certain amount of war is going to be inevitable, but it's going to be nothing compared to the wars that literally happened because of this technological advancement. And one of the ways that we need to do is we need to instantiate a moral system. Religion is a great way to instantiate moral systems, especially right now when we are going through a systems collapse. The first thing that is the victim of a systems collapse is writing. Scribes don't survive system collapses. We saw that in the Bronze Age collapse. Guess how many people guess how many people know how to write in Linear B, the script of the ancient Greeks? 0. Ancient Greeks, as in Mycenaean Greeks, 0. The knowledge of hieroglyphics, nearly lost. Knowledge of the ancient Assyrian script, nearly lost. All of those things in the Bronze Age, nearly lost, and only recoverable in certain situations. So, knowledge is going to get lost. That is inevitable. What we need to do is we need to instantiate practices that people do in their daily lives, physical things that they can do even without a certain amount of knowledge, that will help their lives prosper in the future and get rid of negative health consequences that might arise from eating irradiated fish, irradiated animals, and from the mental health consequences of living in a post-apocalyptic society when many of their relatives are dead. And given that there's no POIs at all, I'm going to, so I'll have a few more minutes to speak. Do I? Is that what that thing means?
You have a minute and a half. That's what the timer says.
Great. I have a minute and a half. So one other thing that that the honorable opposition has stated is that it's only about a bad application of technology and not inherent to the technology itself. Well, given human nature repeated itself over a long enough period with this technology, what we have seen in the past is that before the ultimate nuclear apocalypse, there have been many close calls that have been barely stopped by human intervention. And what we need to do is we need to stop ourselves from getting close to that 2 minutes to midnight. 1984, a malfunction in technology almost caused the Soviet Union to send nuclear weapons across the Atlantic. Cuban Missile Crisis.
1984.
I can go on and on and on.
Yes.
Right now, there are constant like flashpoints in the world, and because of the technology, wars have become more deadly. Everything has become more deadly, and we need to make sure that stuff gets down to a more manageable level, and that is, let's just say, a Renaissance era. Yes.
So how do you?
No, it's protected time. You can't do
Oh,
that.
protect
Sorry.
time.
Sorry, my
All right, all right, it's fine. So what we need to do, and by causing innovation to be a sin, what the honorable Prime Minister has said is that this won't stop people from not sinning. There will be some innovativeness, but it will slow it to an effect. And by using it as a religious doctrine, we can mold our society to keep effectively to keep it as, let's just say, lateral innovation, and to keep certain other technology from being developed, and to slow the amount of progress so that we have more time to recover. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to thank that speaker for their remarks, and I'd like to invite the second opposition speaker to deliver the last constructive address in a speech not exceeding 7 minutes. You're here.
Do you mind just giving me a second before I putting on the timer, just for like my heartbeat to slow down a little bit? Thank you. Okay. Thank you for inviting me here today. I am going to go ahead and break down some of the points that my opposition, or the current government, has put forward, and then from there I will go ahead and rebuild some of our case. So a lot of the cases that are being made right now is the idea that things are not able to go ahead and continue as a result of us losing a lot of our methods of giving information. So thus we must go ahead and reinstitute religion to go ahead and make sure that we have these rituals that are able to go ahead and help people. And that's a very honorable premise, but I just don't understand why this needs to have religion added into it. If we need to go ahead and let people know, hey, don't eat this type of food, we can do that without religion. We can purify water without religion. We can go ahead and have a system where people can go ahead and rid their minds of all their trials and tribulations without religion. I don't really see what exact benefit that specifically going ahead and putting religion forth would do for us. And a lot of this is kind of based off of the idea that, hey, we can stop fascism if we go ahead and bring forward religion. Morals will be instituted with religion. In the past, many of our fascist institutions have had religious components. A lot of fascistic regimes are quite religious. So I just don't entirely understand the train of logic where we say that, yes, fascism can be defeated if only we had Jesus, because, quite of our loving Nazbols are very, very big into Judeo-Christian values. So I just don't entirely understand this logic. And who exactly is the arbiter of these morals? It was never really specified to us what was our religious system. Are we going for Hinduism? Are we going for Abrahamics? Are we creating a new religion? I don't know, but it was never specified. Are we having the same amount of religions that we've had before? Are we going to go ahead and create a mono-religion? Well, if we're creating a mono-religion, well, now we go ahead and have issues again, because a lot of people are not necessarily going to agree with this system, and essentially it's going to be forced on them. If we go ahead and have the same amount of religions as that we had before, oh, well, now we go ahead and have religious wars. There's this whole idea that technology went ahead and caused more death than religion, so let's just go ahead and bring it back. Well, just because it gives less issues than the other doesn't necessarily mean that, okay, well, we can go ahead and have war exactly the way that we did before, as long as it doesn't, wipe off all of humanity. And there's this idea where we're going ahead and saying, oh, well, we had nuclear war. Luckily for you, that wasn't specified when you went ahead and gave your definition. You can give it now. It's helpful to give it now. But it was just said that we had some type of nuclear collapse. That could have been caused by anything, as per the definition. It could have just been that perhaps we had a nuclear power plant that just melted down. So there's not really that much of an issue with technology itself in a little bit. There's not that much of a problem with technology itself. Perhaps we just had a meltdown, and if you wanted nuclear war, then perhaps you should have specified that at the beginning. And all of this just really seems like you're wanting to go ahead and create hive mind again. Like you just want to go ahead and bring the sheep to the water. Oh, you can't do things yourself. We must go ahead and have this overarching system that's going to take care of you, little baby. You can't go ahead and figure out anything. We're going to go ahead and have this, religious system go ahead and take care of you. You can't think of your own ideas. No, we can go ahead and do word of mouth exchange, just like many societies have done for a long time. A lot of societies do traditionally use word of mouth, but it isn't always tied to religion. So it just really seems like you want to go ahead and have this system in which I'll take you one as soon as I finish a sentence. It just seems like you want to have this system in which you go ahead and are able to give information, which is very honorable, but you also want control at the same time. And clearly, as we could see, people do not like control, and it has never gone very well for anybody. I'll take one of your POIs, not all of them. I want to go ahead and do the rebuilding. Yeah, you could. I'll take one of them.
Sorry. Yes.
Choose your favorite one.
So the first casualty of an apocalypse is literacy. And when we're in a society right now that is rapidly collapsing, in a systems collapse where literacy is the first target, how else are we going to teach people, especially in an increasingly illiterate society, to people that aren't going to necessarily care what chlorophyll or gamma rays are when they're starving and trying to survive in the streets?
So you can go ahead and have your slightly dumbed down version of how to go ahead and clean water without putting Jesus Christ or whatever into it. You can do literally all of these same things don't eat this type of meat, don't eat this kind of thing. Word of mouth doesn't need to have religion tied to it. It's literally just adding these extra you just want to have religion, but it's not necessary to go ahead and actually pass down word of mouth things. As we can see throughout history, there's a lot of different types of tribes and stuff that did not have religion that were still able to let the people know, don't eat that kind of berry, it'll kill you. Don't eat that kind of mushroom, it'll kill you. Doesn't need to have a religion tied to it. So just to quickly go ahead and refute some of your other points, but with our actual reconstruction, there's no way in which I would see it being beneficial to actually go ahead and re-put religion. A lot of this was, social cohesion. It'll make it easier for us to do kumbaya. Historically, that has never happened. Historically, we have gone and done many, 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 many wars just over, going ahead and doing religion, especially when we're basically in protected time. So, we've seen many times in the past that it can really, really go ahead and divide a population, and especially right now, we're going ahead and we're trying to rebuild things from, having a nuclear war or a nuclear meltdown or a nuclear something. I don't see how it would be beneficial in any way to go ahead and further faction off people. We need everybody's hands on deck to go ahead and rebuild. And if you're going ahead and creating these arbitrary things where it's us versus them, because that's what it will come down to at the end of the day, we'll have people that believe in your religion, people that don't, and at the end of the day, they will not be able to work together. And that's what we need. We need all of us to work together. There's no way that we're going to go ahead and survive 5 years past this nuclear meltdown if we're going to go ahead and split people in half and essentially have the same issues that we had before. Even if it doesn't come with nukes, I don't think that it's going to be really helpful to go ahead and rebuild what we have left if everyone's squabbling and fighting over nonsense. And with that, there's 10 seconds left on the clock, so I would like to cede my time.
I'd like to thank that member for her remarks, and I'd like to invite the first opposition speaker back to the floor to deliver a reply not exceeding 3 minutes. So I tried to stop the timer. I did not make it in time. So if you could just wait the 15 seconds for the timer to expire, and then you can start your speech whenever. All right, you're good to go.
They complained about magical thinking causing us death, but clearly the nuclear explosions were science-based and not magic. There are clearly not enough...
Stop. Opposition goes first.
Yeah.
Opposition reply goes first.
So I would like to posit that you also have never specified specifically how this religion functions beyond, teaching people water is bad because evil spirits or something like that. You haven't given us a hierarchy. You haven't given us if you follow a god. You haven't even given us a definition of religion. So is this just a social club? Is this, based on, being Whovians back in the before times? What is this religion based on? Do you believe in a god? Do you, worship a specific figurehead in the religion? And I would posit that if you believe in a god, or if you believe in this figurehead, what benefits to society would that belief even have? Would do you believe that this person intervenes in your life in some supernatural way? Well, how would you prove that? How can you have any sort of benefit tied to that belief? How can you have these conceptions be beneficial to society? And as KataraNä said, a lot of the things that you have stated can be taught without religion. You can say, hey, this drinking water is bad because of these things, this thing called radiation, and you can simply explain radiation without them having necessarily to know about cells and all these other things. And also, you haven't really specified if illiteracy has gone out, because it could be the case that we're still in a section of the post-apocalypse where literacy is still in the mainstream, and that we can still say, hey, this is what we're going to do, this is what we need to do to, adhere in society. So you haven't really specified as just how much time has passed in between the nuclear happened that caused the end of the world and where we are now. So it's really confusing as to where, if, literacy's out the window, well, you're the ones bringing this up. You should be able to say literacy is gone, we're past that. It's been X amount of years. And I think that religion ultimately has no actual benefit to us as a society. And anything that you say it could achieve, we can achieve secularly and through secular means without imparting religious or magical thinking. I cede my time.
All right, I'd like to thank that speaker for their remarks. And now I invite the first speaker for the government side to try again and deliver a reply not exceeding 3 minutes. Here.
They complain about magical thinking causing us death, but clearly the nuclear explosions were science-based and not magic. There are clearly not enough nuclear power plants to cause an apocalypse, but there are definitely enough nuclear weapons. Additionally, I did specify warfare as it was implied by strategic targets being engaged and destroyed. I also clarified that there was no way of creating written material because of the severity of destruction. They suggested educating our society was necessary for technology to be used effectively and without causing the same we just experienced. However, again, they did not offer a means that can be continued in perpetuity. In perpetuity is the point. Religion solves this problem. Elo and Mo asked about our religious structure enforcement by the leading of about our and enforcement. To clarify, each one of us as a member of the College of Physicians will be provided a title and myth as archangels of our field. Under the divine eye of the sun, each one of us will adopt disciples to learn our methods as ritual. There will be an inquisition established by each order to root out heresy and rehabilitate our sinners. There is no need for proof about these concepts because they will have faith. Mo asked why we need religion. As previously stated, religion is self-perpetuating. Ideas that don't have a divine attribute are more easily challenged. Why do we win? The opposition has no alternatives for saving us. However, we have a workable solution, preventing technology from causing our extinction. They fail to refute our points with concrete fact. What tribes have operated without religion? How do they know that religion has always caused war? I cede my remaining time.
I'd like to thank everyone for that excellent round of debate. I invite all of you to cross the virtual floor and handshake to the camera. I'm going to go into the deliberation room and just deliberate with myself for a couple minutes because this is what I would normally do with a panelist. Give you some time to talk about it, and when I come back, I will deliver my reason for decision.
Amazing. Thank you. Okay. Well, I'm going
to... I could read that
slower. No, you introduced new information. You don't need to do the model. It's completely irrelevant. We're talking about religion in the abstract. It's a red herring. Why'd you do it?
Didn't they ask? I'm allowed
to. No, you're introducing new information in the Prime Minister's rebuttal. You're not allowed to do that.
Oh, you're not allowed to do that? Oh, okay.
You're not allowed to do that.
I'm sorry, but I asked. I literally asked, can I answer these questions?
But it's also irrelevant to the thing. Like the assumption is that we are creating the new religion as the College of Physicians. We can do whatever we want with all that stuff.
I see.
Like the purpose is like about religion in the abstract, not about our religion in the specific. Or at least that's how I understood the point.
So I'm being asked for the missing
thing
information.
Well, the thing is that if you don't specify your religion and how it's going to affect society, then you're not giving us a strong case for why religion should be reintroduced.
Well, I mean, no, I mean, like, we can't do, like, polytheistic, monotheistic, like, that's kind of, like, irrelevant to the idea of, like, well, should we use religion to, like, do X, Y, or Z, and does religion have, like, X, Y, or Z social benefits or whatever benefits, and would this be beneficial to a post-apocalypse society? Like, you can do, like, those arguments are had all the time, like, on, like...
I could,
like,
so, when I'm being challenged on this, then, in the future, I have to not add additional information past my initial speech, is basically the point.
Yeah.
So I have to use what I said earlier. Well, that's frustrating then.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's what I mean, like, I didn't think that any of that was relevant because it's not like the topic is we will reintroduce religion. So assuming that traditional religions have died out and
Please
we are
vote in the
as
poll.
whatever body
Literally,
we chose, as the
don't
College of
just vote
Physicians,
for me. Vote for like who you actually
able
think. It would be
to
interesting to
do
see
that,
the difference
right?
between what
So we are able to do
what the
To
judge
make a
gives
strong case,
versus
you
you
would
guys.
have to know the specifics of that religion because
Not really, because there's the assumption we can figure that out as we go along. Right now, it's like, well, a few doctrines that we made up. It's like, well, evil water is possessed by evil spirits. Like, this stuff is tainted by evil forces or whatever. Like, we did that when we talked about like radiation because like our point was that like literacy is the first casualty of like collapse. Right, and so we're not necessarily going to have the opportunity to like pass down hyper.
It doesn't cost anything to vote.
So we kind of
I
have
didn't
to
put
dumb
any
it down
bits.
to like evil
Just
spirits.
vote. Just
That's,
vote.
that was like
everything you
that
said
was the
to me,
core
by
of
the
the
way.
argument. That was the core of the argument.
If you're actually like
Right, that was the
watching,
core
some
of the
people may
argument.
just
Didn't
have
really
it
engage with
open
that.
just to have it
I feel
open.
like, I
But
feel like
if
because, like I said,
you're
I
being
think
active and
how
watching,
the
then
religion
yeah,
structure and
I invite
everything
you to
has
vote
everything
for
do
sure.
with this topic because it you have to tackle specific points.
I mean, I guess we kind of like, well, it's an I guess we could have maybe specified, well, it's an organized religion, but like this is stuff that you could have kind of like gleaned from like the way we were talking about it. It's like we are able, as the College of Physicians, to like set rules. We're talking about therapist priests. Right? Like, it's just like this language, like, well, there's going to be a priesthood, there's going to be, like, a set amount of rituals that everybody kind of has to partake in, there's a set amount of, like, place that people go to, like, confess their sins, like, this type of stuff that, like, people do, right? And so, like, if we're talking about, like, social cohesion, this is another aspect that we can introduce to our religion. To, like,
A couple more seconds on the clock.
Like, it's all this other stuff that, like, that is, like, implied in the
Or
arguments that we are
if you want.
we are giving. Like, do you understand
And
what
soon
I'm
enough,
saying?
we'll actually get the results. And I didn't get anything during the stream to give to the mod, but I still feel bad, so I'm still. Oh, okay. Well, one person voted.
Well,
but
I mean,
it's still
I mean, I think that's
Okay.
kind of like,
yeah,
growing
we didn't
up
get anything
in
during the
a,
stream to go ahead and
you know,
give to the
let's just
mod,
say,
and I don't want him to like
a society with organized
feel like he
religion,
doesn't want to do this again, so I will pay him
a
directly.
Christian or a post-Christian society. Like,
But
we have a
yeah,
fairly strong,
if you
idea
do
of
like this
religion
type of
in your
thing,
head.
just
Like, I think
go
so, I
ahead
mean,
and consider giving
okay,
it a pass.
you know what? Yeah,
'cause it's
sure,
really
sure.
helpful.
Like informal debate, you should probably
to make sure that
define
I'm not like
Okay, sure, maybe.
paying out of pocket to run streams. And
So I
stuff.
think it's interesting. I agree that like having it defined would be useful. I'm just wondering how harmful it was that we didn't do that. at the
Yeah, I don't
beginning.
think it was that harmful because it was religion in the abstract. We were talking about religion in the abstract and how it would be beneficial to our goals as the College of Physicians to like maintain human cohesion.
I don't think religion abstract
I would
is
argue that if
Oh, let's go. Who's going
Hello.
on?
Yeah, I'm.
I mean, actually, before the judge says, does chat have an opinion on who won?
Only one person voted, so I'm not
Oh.
gonna use that.
Oh,
Who
okay.
voted
Yeah,
though?
yeah. Pardon?
Wait, I want to see what the vote was though.
Oh, I asked chat like who did they think won, who did the best, not side but person wise, but only like one person voted, so you can already
they probably
guess.
picked you.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, exactly.
Cool.
So I wasn't gonna use that to actually say I was the best one here because like my chat said so.
All right, so I'm gonna give you my winner, and then I'll go through the reason for decision. So I gave the win to opposition, and the reason I ended up giving the win to opposition is because government makes too many assumptions, and the main type of assumption that gets made on government is just here's a list of things that religion can do, and I don't really get a proof as to why this is the case. I think Op has some big flaws in their case, and weird pushback on points. Like, I think the pushback on the model was far more significant than it needed to be, and it didn't end up becoming that influential in the decision, but you could have most certainly pushed back on claims like the church can provide you therapy. Like, in what world is the church going to provide therapy for anyone of the LGBTQ plus community? Or you're in a post-apocalypse. You don't have enough resources to build a church, let alone provide confession booths to people who need these services. Plus, who's going to be trained in therapeutic anything? Like, there's no one qualified to give these services. So I think that there was a weird degree of what could have been pushed back on and what was pushed back on. That being said, let's go into what was actually said on the round. Let's talk about that model first. I don't know why you assumed it was a nuclear holocaust. It didn't say in the motion anywhere. You just kind of made that assumption? I mean, it didn't end up really mattering to the decision. But, like, presumably this apocalypse could have come from anything, because apocalypses can come from more than just nuclear war. Like, presumably, and knock on wood for this one, if COVID mutates for its 12 millionth time and wipes out the planet, that's an apocalypse right there, right? I mean, or even a zombie apocalypse. I don't know, it doesn't have to be, it can be sci-fi a little bit if you want it to be. So, I think
we have to narrow it down, and
No, you
we
don't.
like nukes.
Okay.
We had nukes,
You don't-
so...
you don't
I didn't
have to narrow
realize
it
that I
down.
didn't
I
have
think,
it.
the reason, I think the reason why they went with that is because they needed a reason for the religion to pass down information. So I think that's why they went with that.
Well, I mean, honestly, I just took as his word that we needed. I didn't actually care.
No.
I could have done this with anything.
And it makes more sense given my second piece of feedback, which is you needed to make your arguments more broad in terms of what religion can do. And that it's only really at the end of the debate that I get a conception of what your religion is going to look like, which is, admittedly, a little too specific and a little too weird. I think a fair definition in the spirit of this motion would have been, look, it doesn't really matter if it's a previously established religion or a new religion, but presumably it's going to be something that will probably have traits resembling religion that we have now, because that's what humans organically developed. So presumably they would organically develop it again. And even if it's a different religion, presumably it's going to have some similar characteristics, so we're fair to take examples from any religions that currently exist today. So I don't know what you were getting into at the end in the reply with the Inquisition stuff and the archangels playing roles. That was weird.
I mean,
Yeah,
honestly,
I was trying to message him, stop, don't do
well, I mean, like, the thing is, like, I thought I get clarification on my point, but then I realized that I misread what you said.
Look, if you're trying to do that in the reply, it's already too late. Like,
Right.
just...
It's supposed to be in the
like,
POI, basically.
Yeah, you either do it in a POI or ideally, get your partner to help you. and respond to those model criticisms that do come out of the LO.
So for
That being
clarification, just so I understand for the future, if they challenge me on something that I missed, like the structure of the religion, can I raise my hand and then say POI, explain it, and then have it count?
So you can, but the most effective way of doing this is twofold. One, just do it in that first speech in the model. It's best to just think of these things in prep. But if you miss it, and if it gets brought up in a point of clarification, that makes it easier on you, because you can just address it right then and there. If they don't address it in a clarification, and they only address it in their speech, then it's the second speaker's job to come up and do it. Don't waste your POIs on model stuff. Save your model stuff for the top of the speech, have it take less than a minute, and then get on with it. Because a model is only there to make sure the debate is clean. It's not supposed to be a part of the debate itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, so I mean, part of the, like, your criticism, like about the whole, what's it called, like, qualification thing, I think, like, I guess that's kind of like why we put, like, College of Physicians as the house, right? So, like, we're the surviving doctors and, like, everybody there that, like, is
get to that in a
do all
second.
this stuff, right?
I was going to get to that right now. Remember, the house is given to you.
What was the house?
If I wanted this motion to be this house as the College of Physicians, I would have made it that way. You can't set a narrow house like that if it's not given to you in the motion. So it's like this. It's like saying what's a good example? This house believes that Turkey should join the EU versus this house as Turkey would join the EU. So, right, it's drastically different, two very different motions depending on how you set the house.
Right,
So
but like,
remember, you got to do it in the spirit of the motion.
I mean, yeah, well, no, but like our thought process was, well, it's post-apocalypse.
thought
Which
process.
house exists?
Your
Like, which
thought
house-
process.
My
So-
thought process. Right? Was
Yeah.
my thought process was like, okay, when I was like, okay, let's just do a college of physicians, right? It's like, well, what exists that would have like any sort of like authority to like
Nothing.
dictate stuff? Well, I mean,
Nothing.
but at that point, then we're just arguing, right? And like at that point, like
Yeah.
if there's no body with any sort of authority to do anything, then there's no debate.
Well, no.
Or any sort of like moral or anything. So it's like, who are we? Like, we're a group of like surviving doctors, right, that are able to make these types of rules, like, and have it relatively work out, right? So this is why we can draw upon therapists to be these types of like whatever sin forgiveness priests or this type of this. That's how we're able to do it, because we have the people, right? Or else like if we're nobody and we can't do anything, it's like, what, we're like a group of like
Don't
five
worry,
pseudo
I'm gonna be
prophets
on
to
for
like
pretty late
do
today.
like that won't
There's
work.
a hippie to be showdown, so
So
I'll be there
if I
for
can
that
just
too.
ask to get
So
through my research for decision, then we can come back
Sure.
to comments at the end. What I will just say in response to that is this motion doesn't have to have a regulatory body. It can be a little bit more free form in its implementation, especially because in a post-apocalyptic scenario, not that I've lived through it, but just by conjecture, things are likely to be very decentralized. So there probably isn't
it's
going to be
bits. I
a
literally
college of
have it as
physicians
bits.
with vast
Dumb as hell. I want it
telecommunications
to
networks
be
to reach a whole bunch of
$100.
people. But in the end,
Let me fix that.
didn't end up mattering. What did end up mattering? Let's talk about the case that was given on both sides. I'll start with government, and I'll point out the flaws, what went wrong, and then I'll move on to what went right. So let's talk about the gov case. The first is that you need to know what resources you can work with, what food is safe, what happens in a radiation scenario, and then we get holy water. I think you just assume that all religion has holy water. I'm unclear as to why this is likely to come about. So why do religions provide these guidelines? And you just kind of take them for granted. You assume them to be there. That's not an assumption you can make. Because I'm unclear if people lack that knowledge in the first place, why a religion is going to have knowledge that ordinary people wouldn't otherwise have. Which makes this claim very vulnerable to ops criticism of, you don't need a religion to know that if someone eats a berry and they die, that berry is probably not good to eat. So given the way that point was built, it was vulnerable to that claim. The response to this then is, okay, well, we need to pass down these ideas via literature. The problem with this claim, though, is it's asserted that literature is the first thing to go in a collapse. I'm unclear as to why this is the case. The substantiation, one sec. The substantiation we get for this is that religion preserves writing, and the example for this is the Bronze Age collapse versus the rest of history. The problem with this is I'm unclear as to why religion preserves writing. So, an example is not enough to prove something, because just because it happened once doesn't mean it can happen again. Reference the replicability stuff when we were talking about science earlier. But also, I need a mechanism as to why religion preserves writing. So the answer to this is, well, you have religious texts to preserve cultures, but also you have a traditional religious language that often exists for like sermons to happen and for preachers to read on. So, and also just like an incentive to keep history in mind, because religion is based in history, based in tradition. But these things weren't said in the round, and so I can't credit you for them. Yes. Let's move on then to the second claim, which is technology got us here, so we can't have it back. The problem with this claim is it is undermined because immediately after you say this, you say, people are inventive anyways, we're going to get to technology faster, we just want to delay the process. The problem with this claim then is I'm unclear as to how religion slows technology, and second, why it's good to delay it if it's gonna happen anyways. The mechanism we try to get to this is, well, religion can portray invention as a sin. This is my same criticism with your point earlier. why is invention going to be portrayed as a sin? I'm unclear as to why you can fiat this in. I'm unclear as to why religion views invention as a sin. And the answer to this is because if religion by accident gets something wrong, inventors are going to prove that they're wrong, and that undermines the power that faith has in the first place. So, but once again, you didn't say that. I can't credit you for that analysis if you don't say it. Then you talk about like the social cohesion and health stuff. I think the op content is just better on this. You say that churches are a foundation for a community and that charity exists. Like, okay, you're probably still going to be the same type of person you are with or without religion. Like, I'm unclear as to why religion is a tipping point for you giving to charity. What's the difference maker there? Like, right, if I'm going to be a good person, presumably I'm going to be a good person without religion. I don't get sufficient proof from you as to why things change to a large degree. Then you say you unite them around religious thinking. This is where I want to transition into the op case here, because op outframes this in the leader of the opposition speech, where they say, look, religion causes arbitrary division either along religious lines or even within religious lines, because if you don't interpret the text or interpret the doctrine in the same way, then you get religious infighting. So you don't actually get unity unless you get everyone to think the same way, which is impossible because we're human, and they use the premise that is already provided by Gov that people are inherently curious and inherently knowledge-seeking. The second thing that we get from opposition is that religion tends to exacerbate already existing tendencies, so this leads to pseudoscience and like just people blindly believing in things like faith. The problem with this claim is that the only like impact we get from this is that, oh, we need correct medical information. I'm unclear as to why medical information is like only achievable on your side. But like op never really contended with this claim, so I guess it stands, but I needed more legwork there on that claim. Okay. What else do we get? I like how in the second op speech, it was pointed out that nuclear war was not specified in the motion. That was nice. I was waiting for it. I think the response to literacy from op being that word of mouth exists, like reasonable. I brought that up in the deliberation already, or in the reason for decision already. The only thing I'll say is at a couple moments in this round on both sides, there was too heavy a reliance on examples instead of analysis to prove things. And I flagged this earlier in my reason for decision, but your examples exist to support your analysis, because an example isn't replicatable. In that if it happens once, it doesn't mean it's going to inherently happen again. So I need proof as to why things are going to happen again. So the example I gave on Gov was the Bronze Age collapse. Okay, just because writing doesn't happen once doesn't mean it can't happen. Like, why is it going to happen again the same way? Similarly, on op, just because social cohesion between religions doesn't happen historically, like, why is that going to happen again? I think you can flag your partner's analysis here, because there's reasonable things to be said there. Just do more legwork, do more analysis. So that's why op wins. Their claims are just more intuitive, and they don't rely on assumptions that need more legwork to be true. If that's a TLDR.
I feel like the premise completely like undermines us.
Yeah, because
so basically, it's just because the premise was like a hard for us to argue. To then like we don't have a way of winning. It's like more natural.
Cry harder.
Does that make sense? Is that?
Cry harder.
I'm sorry. Us as the opposition, we could sit here and just like shit on our fucking desk and like, you know, wave our arms around and, you know, go off about why religion's bad, but then, you know, and then you guys would win. It's not necessarily that the premise is like flawed and that it's just like inherently wrong. It's just that how it was argued. Huh?
I know, but what did you want us to argue as just 5 randos that survived the apocalypse, or what?
So
I mean, you could do that, and that's not an unreasonable claim. Here's what I would do as feedback to the two of you. I think I would make your case more broad. So I think a lot of your case was very centered around kind of Western ideals of what religion is. I think there's a lot more ideas of what kind of community religion can bring to people that you just kind of left out. And I get one-liner about how it creates charity. Well, okay, how about it also provides people hope, right? They've just been through an apocalyptic situation.
Well, didn't I say that? I thought I said
No.
stuff about hope. Did I say
Um,
that?
You did,
I
but
didn't
like
catch
you like flew past it, so like you didn't really specify.
Okay.
I would
Oh,
argue
and I
that
think
that doesn't exist inherently within religion.
Yeah, but I think you need to provide people like a sense of meaning and purpose to an otherwise seemingly like
Oh, the nihilism
barren,
argument. Yeah, got it.
otherwise surroundings.
No, the nihilist argument. Well, I mean, I
Yeah,
said that. Like,
there's
I mean,
definitely a nihilist argument
I
behind
thought,
that.
you know, I thought I was like, I mean, like looking back, there was a lot of things that I kind of touched upon that I probably should have explained a lot more. Like, for example, the connection of like these are all a bunch of people that literally lost everything, and I think I mentioned that, and we need to give them something to rally around instead of just leaving them to like do anything. One phrase that I forgot to mention that I really wanted to say that I wrote down but that I didn't because I was looking at all the stuff was that you know, it was a catchphrase that I wanted to do, which is, you know, like if you don't believe in something, you'll fall for anything. So we have to kind of enforce this, right? Like, so
Yeah.
we have to take the position of like, you know, the people that have the correct interpretation or whatever, because we want to prevent people from going off and doing random stuff, right? We want to, when you
Yeah.
get people on the right path, so we have to kind of create a religion to make sure that they don't scatter and start thinking whatever, right? And then cause more destruction, right? And so
Yeah.
we want to create a stable social society. We want to center it around, for example, a church and a priesthood and like all this other stuff, and like especially like, and yeah, I know I was kind of leaning on historical example. The thing is, I'm very familiar with a certain type of religion, right? I'm
Yeah.
very familiar with Christian Orthodoxy, right? Being a, you know, tonsured reader, knowing a lot of stuff about like religious, you know, stuff about like what churches do and like how confession works and like what priests tend to do in confession and what these people tend to do and what kind of religion like tends to look like in a lot of what we're discussing, and like, you know, presumably in a post-apocalyptic environment where religion has been wiped out or whatever, we are reintroducing it. I mean, that's what I assumed. Reintroduction means we're going to do something, and it's like, well, we can formulate our religion however we want. So I tried to make kind of broad arguments about religion can do these things, right?
Yeah.
And so we can institute religion, these things, and we can use it as a uniting force because we're going to
not
be the
even
ones to do it
arguing.
as
I
like these
won.
people with relatively enough authority. There's something that I kind of had to like, yeah, there's there's a bit of a thing that I had to do where it's like, you know, okay, we are like a surviving body of like physicians that people would generally look up to in this sort of
Yeah.
situation if we had survived, right? Because otherwise, like, otherwise a lot of the stuff is just becomes very infeasible to accomplish unless we're like random prophet number one or random prophet number two. And I think
Yeah.
my own religious thinking kind of blocked that thought outright because of, you know, false prophet stuff or whatever. So
Yeah.
like it's
The last thing I'll say is in this round there were a lot of assumptions around things religion can do, and I flagged this a lot in my decision.
Aww.
But there
Thank
are
you.
often examples of things that you assumed religion to do that actually religion does. So I gave the example of writing earlier, but even stuff about like how to be healthy. Like there's basically an instruction manual as
The
to
Torah.
how to an instruction
Torah.
manual on
I-
how
I
to
thi- The Torah,
farm in the Torah. So I think there's an incentive behind that, right? Because if you can get people to farm like you do, you get them embraced within a culture, within not only just a set of beliefs, but a way of life. And so you indoctrinate them more, you get them more within your faith. So there's an incentive on religion's part to do that. It's more than just making the assumption that these are things that religions have done, but here's why religions are likely to do them, even if they're not the religions that we know today, and even if they're different and form out of a post-apocalyptic society.
Yeah. I know it's been a really long time since I've done any of this, right? So it's like, you know, it's been
Yeah,
a
no
really
worries.
long time. I don't think I've done like a formal debate like this in like forever, right? It's
No, this is actually really interesting because
You know,
like,
so
I
it's
could
a lot of-
definitely see, no, No, I could definitely see how we were not very polished. Like just like listening to what you were saying, I'm like, yeah. So we made some assumptions. We need to clarify this, clarify that. So that was really cool.
Unfortunately, I only had some time, and I wanted to go off about the social structures that are resulting, and then all this other stuff. And like, what was it like the? I said to use examples of like the Torah when it comes to like, not touching dead animals that are like rotting. Right, that's a very big thing in the Torah. Don't touch dead, rotting animals, which is kind of where we got the idea
Oh my God,
of
thank
like
you for
one of
coming.
our rules would be don't touch like things with
This
with
has been
that are
really, really
not
fun. Make sure you
unblemished,
check the
that
VOD
look
later.
tainted,
I'm gonna
right?
probably
That's kind of
go
where
ahead
we-
and upload it on YouTube if
it
you
was
want
the
to see
train
it
of thought
properly.
that led
But
to
this
that
was amazing.
example.
I am so happy
Right.
we got to do
But
this
I
today.
don't. But
We didn't
we
explore it.
didn't explain the underlying thing behind
Right,
well, the Torah has this. We're going to like
Right.
extend that to this situation, which is there's a bunch of stuff with like 3 legs or whatever, and so we're
Right,
gonna
right.
use
I was
that
trying
as the
to
proxy.
Well, I mean, I thought that we had to define the apocalypse in a specific way. So instead of relying heavily on the Torah, I was relying on like as much nuclear-related stuff, which is like a huge mistake. Like it would be a lot easier to just be very broad. For the record, the religious model that I was using. So there's a little bit of a cheat here. There's a sci-fi novel called Safehold, written by David Weber, who, by the way, is all right, but he's also like semi-enthusiastic about like capitalism to the point where it's like a detriment to his work. But the point is
Good.
well, whatever. Like he's excessively into this whole model, and it's like a little off-putting. But in a sci-fi novel, humanity is ended. They have to go to a new planet, and they can't engage in advanced technology because the aliens will find them. So they create a whole religion based around this college of physicians idea. So when Az was talking about the college of physicians, I was like, oh yeah, I come up with this. I already had the model. Each physician's gonna be a prophet. I had like a whole 8-book story of how the system worked, and like I'm really upset that I didn't take that and then like put it into my speech in a way that was cohesive. Like I glossed over.
You had a lot of time. Like that's why I'm like, you had like 3 minutes left. I'm like,
I just glossed over everything because I wasn't sure how much to put in, I guess.
Yeah.
But by the way, Ark, let us know, by the way, if you need to run, because we don't want to...
I was about to say I'm gonna run.
Okay.
Thank you so much, everyone, for having me. If you want me back, I'd be happy to come. This was definitely a fruitful discussion, and if I'm back for another 2 hours, honestly, I wouldn't do another teaching. I would just give you a motion and let you run with it, or you can prep your own and do it, or maybe even I'll debate next time and someone else will judge. But I'd be happy to come back, and thank you so much for having me. And honestly, I'm not the best debater by any stretch of anyone's imagination, so I'd be happy to help you find someone better to actually give you some better instruction.
Okay, and then on my end, we didn't get that many like donos or anything, but since you still took your time, and we both live in the same country, so interact's easy, I'll still just go ahead and interact you for your time. We'll see if we make it up, but it's okay. Like at the end of the day, like it's still.
By the way, Miracle, you're missing out on just being able to text or email people money.
Oh,
Literally
We do
just
it all the
email.
time. It's called Venmo.
No, but we don't need an
no.
app. We have something that the whole the whole country uses, and it's not
Yep.
like you just get it automatically
It's
with
just
your
your bank account. It's through your bank account.
Okay, so we'll see you,
Yes,
Ark, and
yeah.
thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us.
Bye.
It's just
Thanks.